These countries waste insane amounts of money, and number one will shock you. Japan spends over $5.4 billion per year just to maintain empty houses. These houses, known as akiya, are scattered across the country from bustling cities to remote villages that no one lives in. The phenomenon of akiya has become a significant issue in Japan, with millions of properties left vacant. Would you pay to keep a ghost town running? These empty homes are often inherited by families who have moved to urban areas and have no interest in returning. The cost of maintaining these properties can be a burden, yet leaving them to decay can lead to other problems, such as attracting pests or becoming safety hazards. Local governments are trying to address the issue by offering incentives for people to buy and renovate these homes. Some even sell them for as little as a few $100s. Despite these efforts, the challenge remains immense. The population decline and urban migration continue to leave more houses empty each year. It's a unique and complex problem that Japan is grappling with, reflecting broader demographic and economic trends. What would you do if you inherited an akiya? From gold-plated Lamborghinis to million-dollar watches, UAE leads the world in luxury spending per person. Ever seen a diamond-covered phone? Well, they buy it. China wastes over 91 million tons of food per year. That's enough to feed millions of people. And yet it's all thrown away. America wastes nearly $247 billion on fraud, useless projects, and military overspending. Imagine burning cash, because that's basically what's happening. The US throws away 40% of its food, an astonishing amount when you consider the resources that go into producing it. From the water used to grow crops to the labor involved in harvesting and transporting food, the waste is staggering. Imagine the impact on the environment and the economy. That's $408 billion per year wasted. This isn't just about food, it's about the money that could have been used for better purposes. Think about the families that could be fed, the infrastructure that could be improved, or the education that could be funded with that amount. And don't forget impulse buying. It's a major contributor to this waste. Many Americans find themselves purchasing items they don't need, driven by marketing tactics and the allure of sales. These items often end up unused, taking up space and eventually being discarded. Americans spend $1,400 a year on stuff they don't even use. This clutter not only affects our wallets but also our mental well-being. Imagine the relief of decluttering and the financial savings from mindful purchasing. By being more conscious of our consumption habits, we can make a significant impact on both our lives and the planet. Here's the craziest part. It would take just $175 billion per year to completely end extreme poverty. Imagine that for a moment. This amount is a fraction of what the world spends on luxury goods, entertainment, and even military expenses. That's less than 1% of global GDP. To put it in perspective, the global GDP is over $80 trillion. So, $175 billion is just a drop in the ocean of global wealth, and way less than what's wasted every year. Think about the billions spent on things like fashion, high-end gadgets, and even food that gets thrown away. If we could redirect just a small portion of this waste, we could make a monumental difference. Ending extreme poverty isn't just a dream, it's a tangible goal within our reach. It requires global cooperation, smart policies, and a shift in priorities. But most importantly, it requires the will to act. Imagine a world where every child has access to education, where families don't have to worry about their next meal, and where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. That's the world we can create if we come together and make it happen. Did you know that the UK spends over £1 billion annually on unused office spaces? Imagine all that money going to waste. Unused office spaces are a growing issue, especially in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. With more companies adopting remote work policies, many office buildings remain vacant, yet they continue to incur costs. These costs include rent, utilities, maintenance, and more. Just think about it. £1 billion could be redirected towards housing, education, healthcare, or social services. It could make a significant difference in addressing various societal issues. For instance, that amount could fund thousands of affordable homes, provide scholarships for students, or even support public health initiatives. This not only highlights the importance of reassessing how we utilize our resources, but also opens up a conversation about sustainable urban planning and the future of workspaces. By rethinking and repurposing these unused spaces, we can create more value for our communities and ensure that resources are allocated more efficiently. Unused office spaces in the UK are a stark reminder of how much potential is wasted. It's time we reconsider how we use such valuable assets and make impactful changes for the betterment of society. In Saudi Arabia, billions are spent on lavish royal palaces that are rarely used. Talk about extravagant spending. These palatial residences are often built with the finest materials, featuring gold-plated fixtures, expansive gardens, and luxurious amenities that rival the world's most opulent hotels. Yet many of them stand empty for most of the year, serving as occasional residences for members of the royal family or venues for state events. The cost of maintaining these palaces is astronomical, with expenses covering staff salaries, security, utilities, and upkeep. While these grand structures symbolize the country's wealth and heritage, they also highlight a stark contrast with the economic realities faced by many of its citizens. Imagine if a portion of this expenditure were redirected towards public welfare programs, education, or healthcare. It could significantly improve the quality of life for countless individuals and contribute to the nation's overall development. This raises important questions about resource allocation and the balance between tradition and modern needs. By re-evaluating how funds are spent, Saudi Arabia could potentially unlock vast resources for social progress and innovation. The lavish royal palaces of Saudi Arabia are a testament to the nation's grandeur, but they also serve as a reminder of the need for thoughtful and equitable use of wealth. It's a powerful example of how rethinking expenditures can lead to more impactful and sustainable outcomes for society. India loses billions every year due to corruption and inefficient government projects. It's a huge drain on the economy. From inflated contracts to ghost employees, the misallocation of funds is a pervasive issue that affects various sectors, including infrastructure, healthcare, and education. Corruption not only hinders economic growth but also exacerbates inequality, leaving essential services underfunded and millions of citizens underserved. Inefficient government projects, plagued by delays and cost overruns, further strain the nation's resources, leading to unfinished or substandard infrastructure. Imagine the transformative impact if these funds were properly managed and directed towards development initiatives. It could improve public services, create jobs, and boost the overall quality of life for many. Addressing corruption and enhancing project efficiency are crucial steps towards unlocking India's full potential and ensuring a brighter future for its people. This highlights the importance of transparency, accountability, and good governance in achieving sustainable development and economic prosperity. Russia spends an enormous amount on military parades and displays. While impressive, it's a significant financial burden. Lavish celebrations showcasing military might involve extensive planning, resources, and manpower. These displays are meant to project power and instill national pride, but they come at a considerable cost. Funds that could be allocated to social programs, healthcare, and education are instead funneled into these grandiose events. Critics argue that these parades are more about political posturing than practical benefit, diverting attention and resources away from pressing domestic issues. Imagine if even a fraction of this expenditure were redirected to improve the lives of ordinary citizens. Addressing the balance between national pride and practical needs could pave the way for a more equitable and prosperous future for Russia. It's a stark reminder of the choices nations make and their far-reaching impacts on society. Brazil's government spends billions on unfinished infrastructure projects. These abandoned sites are a testament to wasted resources. Roads, bridges, and public buildings that were meant to boost the economy and improve the quality of life for citizens now sit incomplete and unused. These projects often fall victim to corruption, mismanagement, and budget cuts, leaving behind a landscape dotted with skeletal structures and half-built facilities. The financial resources poured into these projects could have been better utilized in healthcare, education, and social services. For many Brazilians, these unfinished projects symbolize broken promises and lost opportunities. Addressing the inefficiencies and corruption in the planning and execution of infrastructure projects could transform these abandoned sites into thriving hubs of activity and progress, ultimately benefiting the nation's development and its people. If governments and billionaires came together, world poverty could be history in just 10 years.